Okay. Okay, so yeah, really very nice to be able to have the retreat here and to welcome everybody here. And the weather will probably change, not as much as your mind. Your mind will probably go up and down more than the weather. We were hoping for an Indian summer, but we get what we get, don't we? And we're happy with whatever it is. There's just a few kind of things I want to speak about, just about the structure of the retreat. And because I noticed, and all of this stuff you don't need to film, I just noticed that the walking meditation got left out. I wonder how that happened. You know, all the couch potatoes must have gotten together and said, let's just leave out the walking meditation this retreat. Yeah, and hope she doesn't notice. Because every retreat, at least the ones at Cloud Mountain, there's walking meditation, and a lot of people kind of lose their ability to walk at that time, and they're stuck to their couches reading books. So reading Dharma books is quite helpful, but I think also it's very good to be able to keep your mind focused when your body is moving. This is a very good skill to develop, because in your daily life, a lot of times your body is moving, isn't it? And if you just think of meditation and focusing and concentration as when you're sitting on the cushion, then as soon as you get up, your mind goes wherever it goes, and you forget about trying to keep it focused. So I think walking meditation is quite helpful for developing that ability. So I would suggest that after breakfast, if you're not doing the lunch prep, from 8:30 to 9, you do some walking meditation. And then in the other break times throughout the day, even if you just do 15 minutes or so, I think it's very helpful. And I personally have found if you do walking meditation before you come and sit, it really helps to still your body and mind, especially if when you're walking, you synchronize your steps with your breathing. Yeah? So it's not by forcing your breath in any way, but by adjusting the speed of your steps. So, and you'll find your own way to do that according to how many steps you take on an in-breath or an out-breath. And that synchronization really feels very, very calming. So I would really encourage you to do that. There's different ways to do walking meditation, which I'll describe now so that you can forget them later. One way is to just pick 2 points and walk back and forth between them. Okay? So there's lots of places in the garden and out here and so forth where you can do that. And here, just walk slowly back and forth between those 2 points and focus on synchronizing your breathing with your walking. And just being aware of your body as you're doing that. Okay. Another thing to do is, another way to do it, is to do the walking meditation in 3 phases. When you start out, and here you're not focusing so much with your breath and synchronizing with your walks, with your steps, but you start out just walking kind of normally, noting to yourself left, right, left, right. Then in the second phase, slow down a little bit, and with each step, be aware of lifting, pushing, placing, lifting, pushing, placing. Okay? As your foot goes up, across, and down. And then the third phase of this is to slow your walking down even more and just be aware of all the micro happenings as your foot is lifting, as it's pushing forward, as it's placing down. Okay? And so this is a way to get you to focus gradually in more and more detail. First, just left, right, then with each step, lifting, pushing, placing, and then finally more detailed examination of the steps. And this can be very helpful because then you start seeing the dependency or the dependent nature of your 2 feet. Because we talk about dependent arising a lot in Buddhism, yeah? And you begin to see that when one foot does something, the other foot, and in fact the whole rest of your body, reacts. Yeah. And you begin to notice how many things have to come together to take a step. Because often we're just taking steps and not even thinking about it. But you become aware of what your big toe is doing and how important it is to help you balance. You ever been aware of your big toe? Yeah. And you become aware of how you shift your weight from one side to the other. Yeah. So it becomes very interesting, and you can really focus on dependent nature in this way. And then from there, extrapolate to see, for example, in terms of karma, how one action produces many results, and how for a certain event to happen, many causes and conditions are necessary. And so you begin to see how dependent arising works. Starting with your body and your feet and progressing to thinking about karma and your mental actions and your mental thoughts. Okay? And you can begin to see how one thought in your mind produces one result and influences other aspects of your mind and even aspects of your body. Okay? So you just take one theme from the walking meditation and keep going with it. So let's just start with those 2 ways of doing walking meditation for right now. There are others, but I think those are good to do right now. And then really see the effect that it has when you come to sit. And then I also want to encourage people to do, if you have yoga that you do regularly, or Tai Chi, or Qigong, or whatever, please do that. Continue to do that. Or take a walk. Okay. Now, we don't want people getting lost in the forest. So there is a very nice walk that, if you do it at a moderate speed, takes about a half an hour. It's a loop walk. So I was thinking maybe after lunch, for the people who are interested, somebody could take you and show you that loop. And then you can just stick to that when you're doing, if you want to go walk in the forest. Because if you start exploring other paths and you forget which way you went, then we'll all be doing walking meditation in the forest looking for you. Is there an Abbey, Kevin, you want to do that? Okay, so maybe at maybe about 1 o'clock. Yeah, then you can just ring a gong, and people who want to see the loop walk. It's a very nice walk. Okay, then also other opportunities for exercise, because I do think it's important to be outdoors and to move our body when we're sitting, and even in our regular life to do this, is to circumambulate. So we have the Buddha in the center of the garden there, And circumambulation is an ancient Buddhist tradition. It came, you read about it in the canon, about when people came to visit the Buddha, they would always walk around him clockwise. That's why the shoulder is bare, to show this towards the object we respect, towards the Buddha. And they would circumambulate the Buddha and then sit down and pay their respects. And so we have the Buddha in the garden. If you'll notice, there is a path around the Buddha. Now, even if you're staying down in the community room, or if you're going to pick apples or something like that, you're going in that area, try to circumambulate the Buddha while you're doing it. In other words, when you're going down the path, go a little bit to the left, so your right side is towards the Buddha when you go down, and then when you come up, you come on the other side. And so then, even though you're going to do something else, you're accumulating virtue at the same time. Okay. Now you might say, wait a minute, I'm just walking. How is that accumulating virtue? Well, you're doing it with mindfulness of the Buddha and remembering the qualities of the Buddha. And so that is putting your mind in a good state. Or even remembering which way to walk when you're going down there is a mindfulness practice, being aware of your relationship with the Buddha. And so it's quite nice to see. And karmically, it can be very potent. One of my teachers is, in his room, he always sets up a small table with relics and statues on it, right in the middle of the room. And when you go to see him, he always, at the end, has you circumambulate this little table a few times, okay? And this comes from a story from the scriptures about one old man who wanted to ordain, and Shariputra, who was one of the Buddha's excellent disciples, one of his closest disciples, this old man approached Shariputra and requested ordination. And Shariputra had clairvoyant powers, but not the same powers as the Buddha did. And so he was unable to see that this man had created enough virtue, enough merit to be able to receive ordination, and so refused him. And so the old man was sitting there, crying and saying, what's going to happen to me? My family doesn't want me. I can't join the Sangha. He was kind of, being quite upset and despondent. And the Buddha came along. He told the story to the Buddha. And the Buddha, who has superior clairvoyant powers, saw that one time, many eons ago, the man had been born as a fly. And there was a stupa with water around it. And, the cows, if you've ever been to India and Nepal, they poo all over the place. So some cow poo was in the water that was going around the stupa. And the fly landed on the cow poo and circumambulated the stupa. Okay? And that contact with the holy object, even though his mind was a fly, due to the power of the holy object, created enough merit to give him that boost so that the Buddha granted him ordination. Okay? So if, as a human being, you decide to circumambulate the Buddha, then, there's certainly much more mindfulness going on and awareness of the Buddha's qualities when you do that. And so the circumambulation, if you go to Asia, people will circumambulate stupas, and holy figures just in the morning and the evening. A lot of people in the community go out and they'll spend 15 minutes, half an hour, just circumambulating like that and doing some mantra while they walk. So this is something that you can also do here. And if you want to do a bigger circumambulation path, you can go around the Buddha and then go out the gate and come around here and go around the meditation hall and then back in through the gate. And in that way you're circumambulating not only the Buddha in the garden, but all the Buddha images in the house and in the meditation hall. Okay? And so then you're really, thinking about the qualities and aspiring to generate those qualities while you're circumambulating. Okay? So that's something good to do, to avoid being couch potatoes. Yeah. Okay, the next thing I wanted to ask is, last year in teaching the 108 verses, what verse did I stop at? I finished 21? Okay. Okay. So I might review the first 21. And hope we get beyond the ones that are like Chandrakirti's introduction, and then go beyond, because this text is very, very rich. So compassion is, definitely one of the themes of this retreat, meditating on Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion, and then having teachings on the 108 verses of compassion. When you're doing your silent meditation in the period after this one, and also at other periods of silent meditation, contemplate the teachings that you're hearing on the 108 verses of compassion, because it's very powerful when you hear teachings and then immediately meditate on them. Okay? So to do that, you might want to jot down some notes while the talks are going on, so that you remember the important points. You don't have to take a lot of notes, but so that you remember the important points, so that when you sit down to reflect, those come to the mind easily. Okay? And that you think about them in terms of your own life. That's the real key to the whole thing. Yeah, not just going through, okay, meditate on this topic, point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4. Yeah, I read the same points every time I meditate on that topic. Amen. That's not going to bring you much inspiration. Okay, you really have to make the meditations your own. And so, the outline is for people who don't know the subject material so well, so that they can anchor themselves to something. After you learn the subject material well, you can go into one aspect of it or another according to the points that you already understand in your mind. Okay, so please make the meditations your own. Don't make the Lamrim meditation some kind of rote thing. Okay? So especially, when you're hearing the teachings on 108 verses, you're really thinking about them and the major points like that. Is very helpful, because it's making it your own, and it's also helping you to really listen. Like, well, what are the main points here? Yeah. Okay. Apart from the fact that sometimes I go off on tangents. Okay, then you went over the 5 precepts last night. I don't know, are there people who wanted to keep the precepts of the 8 precepts for the duration of the retreat? Did you discuss that at all? Because sometimes during the week-long retreat, there's people who want to keep the 8 Mahayana precepts for the entire retreat. If you're one of them, please leave the retreat manager a note so that the kitchen can have an accurate count of how many people are eating what meal. And then we will take the 8 Mahayana precepts, I think, later on in the week. I'm not quite sure which day, but yeah, but we don't, taking the precepts, you can do them any day you want. They don't have to be on the new and full moon days. So I know the next full moon is on Sunday. We'll take them sometime before that, and that will be our precept day instead of Sunday. Okay? But we'll see that as we go along. Okay? Then interviews. I made up an interview sheet. I'm going to put it on the back of the door downstairs, so you can sign up, or somewhere downstairs. Maybe the back of the door isn't so good because somebody might open it and hurt your nose if you have a big one like I do. So it'll be around there, and the interviews will be in the office that is on this side of the building. It's Venerable Jigme and Venerable Chuni's office. I hope that's okay with you. So the interviews will be there. They're 10 minutes long. I know that some of you would like a few hours, but I think the advantage of short interviews are that you really have to think beforehand about what is important to you and what's the essence of what you want to talk about. Because if that is clear in your mind, then we can address it right at the very beginning, and that's very helpful. Okay? The interviews are optional. They're up to you. And there's 2 in the morning after breakfast and 2 in the evening after medicine meal. When you sign up, please sign up for the first slot followed by the second slot. Okay? So, because it's easier for me to be there at the right time if they're there. If you sign up and then cross your name out, please do it several hours in advance, so that if somebody else wants to sign up, they could, and also so that I won't be there thinking I have an appointment and nobody comes. Okay? Okay, and then also, I had taken a couple of booklets and papers out of a file last night, and I thought I left them downstairs and don't see them. There's some things about the death absorption and the death process, so if anybody sees them lying around, please put them in my box that's downstairs. They're probably right in front of my nose and I'm not seeing them, but I've looked everywhere. Okay, any questions so far? Yeah.
Would you like to have, we can fix the light's going to come into your face in just a few minutes without being a big distraction, covering it now? What do you do to make
I mean, it's hitting Chris now, and then there, and it's going to hit somebody else, and
If you move forward, it's just going to follow.
And if I move back?
And you'll eventually pass by.
Okay, well, I might move forward a little bit to start with. Don't sit down. You know, if I move forward, then you're all going to inch backwards. Okay. No, that wasn't the right direction to move. Okay, let's go back here. Well, anyway, there's sometimes karma ripens and there's no way to avoid it. Whichever direction you move in, the sun's going to hit you. Okay. Good. So I wanted to lead the Chenrezig practice this session. So that is in Pearl of Wisdom, Book 1. Because this is going to be the practice that you spend a lot of time on during the retreat. But it's not the only practice you're spending time on. It's on page 1. Did you do it this morning? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So I'll lead the front generation because not everybody's had the initiation. The people who've had the initiation can do the self-generation. But I'll lead the front generation. And we're using this as a way to develop some concentration and to purify, to accumulate merit, to get a feeling for compassion. But within this meditation, we will also integrate the Lam Rim meditations. In other words, reflecting, doing one of the analytical meditations, reflecting on a Lam Rim topic. This was a special way that my teachers used to teach, because they said when you do this kind of meditation and the mantra and all, it really settles your mind down. And then, with that mind that is more settled than if you reflect on one of the topics, it becomes easier for you to do. Okay? Just a reminder with visualization that it doesn't mean seeing things as vividly with your eyes closed as you do when your eyes are open. I say that because at the monastic conference that I just returned from, I was speaking with one Zen practitioner, and she was asking, well, what's this visualization you do? I can't visualize at all. I close my eyes and there's nothing there. And then I said what I usually say to people, which is, well, think about your mother, and do you have an image in your mind of what your mother looks like? I said, yes. I said, that's visualization. Okay? So it doesn't mean that you close your eyes and everything is as vivid as it is when your eyes are open. But it means that you're having a mental image of something and focusing on that mental image. And we do this all the time, and we're usually not aware of it. Okay? When we get angry at somebody, when we're annoyed at somebody, we have an image of them in our mind. We visualize the situation that happened with them. Yeah? We run the movie in our mind. We think about what we want to say to them in the future. Okay? If you're aware of your mind when that's going on, you'll see that you have like a movie going on in your mind. There's visual images going on in your mind, and you can even hear the tone of their voice. There's an auditory image in your mind, Of course, we embellish it a little bit. And our memory isn't exactly what happened, We kind of selectively pull out certain details and embellish them. But the idea is that we're visualizing all the time anyway. Okay, we're imagining so much of the time anyway. So what we're doing in this kind of meditation is switching that ability to something that is virtuous. And here keeping our attention focused on the Buddha of compassion. Okay? And so that trains the mind so that in the other times when you're not in meditation, you can still have that image in your mind of Chenrezig and his compassionate gaze and compassionate posture. And if you have that image of Chenrezig in your mind, or feel like you're in the presence of Chenrezig, then, that affects how you go through the rest of your day, doesn't it? Okay. You know what a solution is? You got it. We all... There's many ways of following your teacher's example, and His Holiness wears one, so I'm trying to be like him in other ways, but at least I'll start with wearing a cap. So this meditation on Chenrezig is a way to tune into the qualities of compassion using symbolic means, like an artist does. Yeah. And so what really resonates with me, and you'll find your own things about how Chenrezig looks, is how compassion is expressed through his eyes and through his arms. Okay. So spend some time, thank you. Nobody wears it like this, do they? I could do like this, but then the sun comes and like this. How about this? Who says I'm not hip? Okay, so Chenrezig, if you spend some time and look at Chenrezig's eyes, and they're just long and narrow and just completely compassionate. Yeah? And so in the break time, come and you can look at the eyes of any of the Buddhas. Chenrezig's back there. But just look at those eyes and get the feeling in your heart of what those eyes mean. Okay? And then think, if I had eyes that looked like that, what would my internal feeling be? Or I'm imagining Chenrezig looking at me with those compassionate, accepting eyes. How do I feel when others look at me with acceptance and compassion? Okay? So the eyes are a way to get into the feeling of compassion through symbolic language. Okay? Chenrezig's arms also, to me, are so really show compassion, because Chenrezig's like this. I mean, everybody go like this. Stick your hands out. Okay? Yeah. You go like this. Do you feel different? Stick your hands out again. Yeah? I mean, it's nice, isn't it? Your hands are out. You're completely open. You can you're not protecting yourself because there's nobody to protect. You can have your hands wide open and feeling vulnerable and not feeling any fear or any nervousness. And to boot, your hands are open, reaching out, extending to sentient beings. Yeah? So we're not just sitting here like this, protecting ourselves. We're not sitting here like this, counting our money. Yeah. We're not sitting here slumped over with our bad posture. We're like this. Yeah. And that indicates a certain mental attitude and feeling that's very good for us. Yeah? So periodically throughout the day, when you're in different places, just go like this. Yeah? And see how that makes you feel. Yeah? Reach out to the world. Because remember, there's a palm, an eye in the palm of each of Chenrezig's hands looking out at sentient beings. Chenrezig's not sitting there, oh, nobody loves me and I do everything wrong, and you know how we are when we have our pity party? Yeah? And you know the body language of a pity party? So Chenrezig's posture is just completely the opposite. So go like that from time to time. Okay? And then Chenrezig's first two hands are like this. Yeah? Put your hands like this. Yeah? What do you feel when your hands are like this? It's kind of like an international gesture of respect, isn't it? Or seeing the good qualities in someone. So it's, when we put our hands like that, it brings up that feeling inside of us of, oh, there's something good in the universe, and I'm paying homage to what's good in the universe, and there's good in other sentient beings, and I'm seeing that. Okay? So, you can feel that with your arms. That's why we greet ourselves, each other this way. You know the Western tradition of shaking hands? You know what the origin of that is? In the Wild West, it was a way of showing people that you didn't have a gun in your hand, so you could be trusted, at least at that moment, because most people were right-handed. Yeah, and they would draw their gun like that. Yeah, but if you extended a hand without a gun to shake it, that's America for you, isn't it? Okay? Yeah, so we're not going around shaking hands. We're going around like this. Yeah, it's expressing a different quality, isn't it? Huh? Okay. So, let's do the meditation. If you need to wiggle, wiggle now. If you need to stand up and stretch, do that now without talking. Okay, then we'll start with some breathing meditation. So sit up straight. Lower your eyes, keep them a little bit open, prevents drowsiness. And breathing normally, just focus on the breath, letting your mind settle down, and bringing your attention back to the breath if it should wander. So, for a moment, think of what it would feel like to have great compassion for all living beings. What would that feeling be like inside of yourself, where you had no anger, no resentment, no clinging towards anybody, but instead, whenever you saw any living being, your heart was just filled with affection and the wish for them to be happy and to never experience any suffering. And to feel within yourself this love and compassion so strongly that you want to act upon it. And you feel optimistic and hopeful about doing something to remedy the suffering in the world. But you have no expectations. Your heart is just totally open to whatever it is. So think of what that would be like to have that kind of mind, that kind of feeling inside. And then that compassion appears in the space in front of you in the form of Chenrezig. So the whole visualization is made of light. And Chenrezig stands on a lotus and a moon seat. And his body is very beautiful, youthful. He's wearing many ornaments representing the 6 far-reaching practices. He has 11 faces looking out at sentient beings in all the places of the universe. So the 3 faces on his shoulders, the center one is white, and the one on his right is green, and on his left red. Then above that, the center face is green, on his right red, and on his left white. Above that, his center face is red, on his right white, and his left green. Above that is a wrathful dark blue face, yellow hair standing on end, and the wrath is directed towards anger, towards the heart that is shut down. It's not directed towards sentient beings. And on top of that is the red head of Amitabha Buddha, who's very tranquil. Then Chenrezig's first 2 hands are at his heart, and they hold the wish-fulfilling jewel, the Buddha nature. On his right, the second hand holds a crystal mala reminding us to recite the mantra. The third hand, which is the lowest, is in the gesture of giving realizations, and nectar flows from it during the suffering of the hungry ghosts. And then the fourth hand, which is a little bit higher, holds the Dharma wheel, representing giving teachings. On his left side, the second hand, the highest, holds the golden lotus. The lotus is special because its roots are in the mud, but it is untainted by the mud. Just like a bodhisattva lives in the world, but is untainted by the afflictions of the world. The third hand, which is the lowest, holds a vase containing the nectar of compassionate wisdom. And the fourth hand, which is a little bit higher, holds a bow and arrow, symbolizing the defeat of the four negative forces, which are the five aggregates: death, afflictions, and karma, and then pride, or anybody who can get you off track in your practice. Then an antelope skin is over his left shoulder, symbolizing the power of compassion. Chinrezi embodies all the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, all the compassion in the universe. And around you are all the sentient beings. Think of your mother on your left, your father on your right. And you're all looking at Chinrezi together. And then we all take refuge. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the positive potential I create by practicing generosity and the other far-reaching attitudes, may I attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity rather than anger. May they abide in this way. I shall cause them to abide in this way. Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness and its causes. May they have these. I shall cause them to have these. Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. May they be free. I shall cause them to be free. Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. How wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were never parted from upper rebirth and liberation's excellent bliss. May they never be parted. I shall cause them never to be parted. Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. Especially for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I must quickly and more quickly in this very life attain the precious state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. Therefore I shall practice the gradual path of Guru Charasi Yoga. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all this virtue for myself and others to the great enlightenment. Then think of everything beautiful in the universe. And think of the preciousness of the Dharma as the path to enlightenment and the realizations. And think, I want to give everything in the universe to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, together with my aspiration, my request to receive teachings, to receive inspiration and guidance. So try to have a sense of giving without any sense of fear or loss or any sense of, if I give it, I won't have it. So just mentally give. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, four lands, sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratnam Mandalakam Niryatayami. And then, as we chant the question prayer, really think about the meaning. Try and generate the feeling, the experience of the meaning in your heart. Arya compassionate eyed one, who is the treasure of compassion, I request you, please listen to me. Please guide myself, mothers and fathers, in all six realms, to be free quickly from the great ocean of samsara. I request that the vast and profound, peerless awareness tear of your great compassion, please cleanse all karmas and delusion. Please lead with your hand of compassion me and my greatest two fields of bliss. Please, Amitabha and generosity in all my lives be virtuous friends. Show well beyond deceptive pure path and quickly place us in Buddha state. And as we recite the 8 verses, pausing slightly between each one, really take them as a statement of intention. Okay? So say, I will do this. You know, you're really setting a strong intention to practice, as each of the 8 verses says. With the thought of attaining enlightenment for the welfare of all beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. So set that strong intention. I will constantly practice holding them dear. Whenever I am with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the very depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. Again, strong intention. I will respectfully hold others as supreme. I'm going to do this. In all actions, I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. And strong determination. I'm not going to let those afflictions go by unnoticed. I'm going to firmly confront and avert them. Whenever I meet a person of bad nature who is overwhelmed by negative energy and intense suffering, I will hold such a rare one dear, as if I had found a precious treasure. So I will hold those people dear. I'm going to do that. When others, out of jealousy, mistreat me with abuse, slander, and so on, I will practice accepting defeat and offering the victory to them. So no matter how they treat me, I will practice accepting defeat. I'm not going to have the last word. I'm not going to have to explain myself all the time. When someone I have benefited and in whom I have placed great trust treats me very badly, I'll practice seeing that person as my supreme teacher. So I'm not going to sit and wallow in self-pity. I'm going to see that person as my as my supreme teacher. Learn from the situation. In short, I will offer directly and indirectly every benefit and happiness to all beings. I will practice in secret, taking upon myself all their harmful actions and sufferings. I'm going to practice the taking and giving situation whenever there's the opportunity, and use it as an antidote to feelings of despair and helplessness. Without these practices being defiled by the stains of the eight worldly concerns, by perceiving all phenomena as illusory, I will practice without grasping to release all beings from bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued mind and karma. So I'm going to practice diligently in order to release all beings. Now let's do a little bit of serenity meditation, developing some concentration. So return and renew the visualization of Chenrezig, and go over the details again, describing them to yourself, and then whatever image you get as a whole, focus on that image without letting the mind stray. If the image starts getting fuzzy and becomes blurrier, then go over the details again, and then again hold the whole image. At the beginning, as you're practicing this, the image may not be very clear at the beginning. That's okay. Just focus on whatever image you get, even if it's some kind of white something. Okay? But if that starts to fade, then go over the details again and make the visualization more vivid and the feeling of connection with Chenrezig more vivid. And then again place your mind one-pointedly on that. So spend a few minutes doing this. And now think that Sravasti comes on top of your head, and that there's Sravastis on the heads of all the sentient beings around you. That at each of the Sravastis' hearts there's a horizontal lotus and flat moon disk. At the center of that is the seed syllable 3, which is the essence of Sravastis' wise and compassionate mind. And then the letters of the short mantra are around that, and on the outside the letters of the long mantra. It's all made of light. And so now as we chant the mantra, imagine that light flows from the seed syllable and the mantra letters in the hearts of all the Sravastis, into us, into all the beings around us, and it purifies the negative karmic imprints and brings with it all the realizations of the path. And so we think like this as we chant the mantras. We'll do the long mantra 3 times and then just do the short mantra silently to ourselves. Namo Ratnatraya, Namo Arya Jnana Sagara Vairasana Bharataya Tathagataya Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Sarva Tathagate Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Arya Avalokite Sharaya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Tayata Om Dada Dada Diri Diri Duru Duru Ete Wate Sale Sale Pa Sale Kusume Kusume Vari Elinele Satisa Apanaya Soha Namo Ratnatraya Namo Arya Jnana Sagara Vairasana Bharataya Tathagataya Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Sarva Tathagate Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Arya Avalokite Sharaya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Tayata Om Dada Dada Diri Diri Duru Duru Ete Wate Sale Sale Pa Sale Kusume Kusume Vari Elinele Satisa Apanaya Soha Namo Ratnatraya Namo Arya Jnana Sagara Vairasana Bharataya Tathagataya Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Sarva Tathagate Arhate Samya Sambuddhaya Namo Arya Avalokite Sharaya Bodhisattvaya Mahasattvaya Mahakarunikaya Tayata Om Dada Dada Diri Diri Duru Duru Ete Wate Sale Sale Pa Sale Kusume Kusume Vari Elinele Satitsala Apanaya Soha Om Mani Padme Hum. Now for a very short longer meditation. Let's contemplate, because they say a bodhisattva's compassion looks at sentient beings' misery and sees it as unbearable. And so contemplate, when you look at others' suffering and see it as unbearable, where does your mind go? Where does the feeling of unbearable take you? And then think about, if you were a bodhisattva and saw sentient beings suffering as unbearable, where would that take you? Okay, so do a little bit of examination of how you relate to this word, unbearable suffering, where your mind takes you with that, and what is another possibility for where your mind could take you, and how would seeing sentient beings suffering as unbearable in the case of a bodhisattva be different than seeing it as unbearable in the case of us ordinary beings? Okay, so just contemplate that a little bit. Try and get some idea of what a bodhisattva's compassion is. then let's make a strong determination to live our life in a meaningful way and to act with bodhicitta in all of our actions. And because of this very virtuous intention, Chenrezig melts into light and dissolves into us, and really feel like your mind becomes inseparable from Chenrezig's mind, and your body just becomes light and very clear. And let's dedicate. Due to this medicine, attain the enlightened state of Guruji, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to the positive potential accumulated by myself and others in the past, present, and future, may anyone who merely sees, hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me be freed in that very instant from all sufferings and abide in happiness forever. In all rebirths may I and all sentient beings be born in a good family, have clear wisdom and great compassion, be free of pride and devoted to our spiritual masters, and live in accordance with our vows and commitments to the spiritual masters. In whatever guise you appear, O Chenrezig, whatever your retinue, your lifespan in Pure Land, whatever your name most noble and holy, may I and all others attain only these. By the force of these praises and requests made to you, may all disease, poverty, fighting, and quarrels be calmed. May the Dharma and all auspiciousness increase throughout the worlds and directions where I and all others dwell. In leading it the way I did this time, you saw more time was spent on the cultivation of serenity and then less time on the mantra and the dissolution. So when you do the practice on your own, you can emphasize certain parts over other parts. You don't need to do everything equally the same slow way each time you do it, or the same fast way each time you do it. You can emphasize different parts of it.